Jai Prahar ma'am.
Jai Prahar.
Today we are going to talk about Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw and his feats and his participation in the 71 war and World War II. So I think we should start off. Could you tell us about his childhood in brief? Maybe?
Okay, Arjun, let me start with wishing all the viewers and you as well a very, very happy Vijay Diwas, because we celebrate Vijay Diwas on 16 December, and this is the day when we defeated Pakistan in the 1971 war, and we literally made two pieces of Pakistan. The one piece, which is called as Bangladesh, formed a new country, and the other is Pakistan. So literally हमने पाकिस्तान के दो टुकड़े कर दिए थे, and that is why best wishes and cheers for this Vijay Diwas. Yes, Field Marshal Sam Hormuzji Fremji Jamshedji Manikshaw, as his full name goes, is a very, very well-known leader of the Indian Army, and leadership traits are learned by the officers from Field Marshal Manikshaw. There is a very wonderful lecture on YouTube on leadership given by Sam Manikshaw. He was very fondly called as Sam Bahadur in the army, and he was very he was an officer who was always looked up to. People always loved to be in his company. He was a charismatic leader, a leader who always used to full of wit and humor, and who used to speak to the point, and an absolute superb militarian, and his strategies and his the way he handled the government, the way he handled the various wars, and his bravery was just beyond words. And that is why Sam Manikshaw is known as one of the ace leaders, ace military leaders of the defense forces. Now, if you talk about his childhood, he was there was a very interesting childhood. His grandfather was a teacher, and he was a teacher in Valsad, and in fact, he has taught Morarji Desai, who later on Morarji Desai became the Prime Minister of the country. And his father, Sam Manikshaw's father, he was a doctor, and earlier he was practicing in Mumbai, and then later on he moved to Amritsar. And in Amritsar, Sam Manikshaw was born, and Sam had 5 of his siblings, and he was the 5th in number. And as a small child, he was very, very mischievous and very short-tempered, and his siblings were all together, and 3 of his siblings were studying in the Sherwood College, Nainital, and the rest of them, and the 2 of them, they were doing engineering elsewhere. So they used to spend only 3 months with the family. The entire family get together that used to be only for 3 months. That is from December to February, where they used to have holidays, and they used to stay together, and all kind of fun and frolic, and all kind of games, and everything they used to enjoy. Sam Manikshaw's mother was an excellent cook, and especially she was he belonged to a Parsi family. And in this family, whenever there used to be this get together of all the children coming for vacations, she used to be always busy in the kitchen preparing all types of dishes and all types of sweets and all type of food. And especially she had specialized her cookery art into Parsi dishes, and she was an excellent cook. And in fact, her daughter, she still comments that my mother was the most excellent cook in our family the entire Manikshaw family could ever have. So and this kind of get together, and this kind of strong bonding the entire Manikshaw family had, and this is the way they grew up. When Sam, he finished his schooling, and then he did his he further did his education in the Cambridge school. And then later on, when he became 18, his father had promised that, in fact, Sam wanted to become a doctor like his father. He never wanted to join the forces. So when he became 18. So his father had said, okay, when you become 18, then I'll send you to England to study your medical studies and to complete your medical degree and become a doctor there. So Sam, with a lot of interest, finished his studies and became 18 and scored top grade in Cambridge. And when he came back and when he told his father, look, these are the grades and now this is there, and now please send me to England for my medical studies. So his father thought that he's too young to go to a foreign country, and that too for such a long duration to study medical. So his father refused, and he said, you're still very young. So Sam, as I told you earlier, was very short-tempered, and he got very angry and wild, and he, without telling his father, he took money from his mother. And that was a time when there were these advertisements which had come out in the newspapers. And that was when the Britishers, they had a commission which was set up, which brought up the idea of an Indian military academy, not a Indian military academy, but then a military academy which was to be placed in the center of the country, which would train the Indian officers and as well as the others together, and which would make them officers. So this commission finally, finalized. There were some places which were shortlisted to open this kind of academy. There was but then cutting down on all the places and looking at the weather of all these places, then they decided that they would keep it in Dehradun. So the military academy started in Dehradun. But before that, how did Sam Manikshaw apply for this examination? That is also a very interesting story. He borrowed money from his mother and ran to Delhi. In fact, he didn't inform his father that he is going to Delhi. He went to Delhi from Amritsar and appeared for the Public Service Commission entrance exam, which was the first of its exam of getting into the military services as officers, and that too into the military academy. So he wrote that exam and fortunately cleared that exam, and 15 of them were selected from this exam to enter into the IMA, and Sam was amongst them. And then the moment he was one amongst them, he entered into the IMA. Then he told his parents, and his parents were also okay with that idea, and he joined the military academy. And this was it. This was his interesting childhood, and this was the kind of rebellious attitude that Sam had, and due to which he ended up into becoming the Field Marshal of Free India. And he was the first Field Marshal of Free India, and this is how we all know him as legends.
Ma'am, could you further tell us how he was as a gentleman cadet in the IMA after he joined there?
Oh, that again is a very interesting thing, Arjun. When he joined the IMA, the training of the IMA was absolutely new to him. And since, it was new for everybody, since there was nobody in the Manikshaw family who belonged to the services. So, as a gentleman cadet, when he entered the military academy, and he saw the entire system there, he saw that every day in the morning they used to get up and they used to have this PT and running and drill and all this stuff. So he used to find it very amazing, He used to say that, why all these things unnecessarily? So he always used to play pranks. And he many a times got extra drill as punishments. Many a times he got extra drill as punishments. And on the weekends, all these gentlemen cadets, they used to get a weekend off pass. But then it never used to be for a overnight stay. So one very funny incident happened that Sam, along with two of his very close friends, they decided that they would drive to Mussoorie. From Dehradun, Mussoorie is very close by. So they decided that they would drive down to Mussoorie, and in a hotel, there was a very beautiful dance show. And they wanted to attend that dance show. So they attended, they bought tickets and they sat down watching the dance show. And the dance show naturally was very interesting and very attractive. So all these three of them, they started enjoying. Without looking at the watch, they never saw the time, and the evening closing gates of the IMA, the time was over and they shot over the time. So when they looked at the watch, it was about 10 o'clock in the night. They didn't even come to know. So they were worried what would happen. But then Sam, as you know, his nature goes, he was very bindhas and absolutely cool. Did not did not flap or did not get confused or was not worried. He said, let us halt here for this night and let us go to the academy tomorrow morning. We'll face whatever music has to will be there. The same thing happened. They stayed there, and the next day morning, the moment these people went to the academy, a huge punishment was waiting for them. The adjutant gave them a punishment of 15 days. They were to be locked up inside their rooms and no activity and nothing at all. So this was there, and along with extra drill and along with all kind of punishments. So Sam was very famous in the academy as a brat gentleman cadet, as a gentleman cadet who always fell into some kind of trouble with some kind of officer or having some kind of punishment. But then his beauty was that he was very intelligent. Whatever was taught to him, he used to grasp it the moment it was taught to him, and he used to produce it very, very nicely. There is a very interesting information about Sam Manikshaw, that one of his juniors, I think it was Rustamji, one of his juniors was about to join the IMA, and he came to know, and he knew this Rustamji, and he wrote a letter, and that letter has been published in the journals of the IMA, and it is I believe that it is still there in the IMA, and it is framed and kept in the IMA. So this letter is very interesting, very, very hilarious, very, very humorous. He has described all the things of the IMA in such a beautiful manner that if anybody reads that letter, one will feel that there is nothing, not even heaven is better than the IMA. Even the punishments he has not given the name, he has not given the word as punishments. He has given extra drills are always fun, and this is the only thing that we do in the academy besides getting all the training, and he's used such wonderful flowery language, and he has spoken about the mess food, also about the IMA, that there's a huge room which is called as a mess, but it is not a mess, and there all the cadets get together to have their food, to have breakfast. So don't worry, Rustam, you sit and at least have 6 eggs for breakfast and continue having your breakfast for as long as you wish. Whereas we all know that everything in the academy is time bound, and you're supposed to finish everything, and you're supposed to go for your next session or your next class, whatever is there. So this is the way he's described it, and that letter is really beautiful and very hilarious.
After that, I think the World War II, he took part in World War II.
Yeah, that again is very interesting. In fact, he joined the IMA in 1932. Sam was born in 1914, and he joined the IMA in 1932, and he passed out from the IMA in 1935. And 1939-40, the World War began, and he was into the Sikh regiment, and there he was a captain then, and he was sent on a Burma campaign. And in Burma, when he and his troops, they were undergoing heavy firing, and there was this intense war-like situation, and they were fighting. So there, he and his company, and he was a company commander there. So they were into intense battle. So one very funny incident happened with Sam. One day in the evening, one of his senior JCOs, he came to Sam and he said that, sir, the moment Sam came into his tent, he came to Sam and said, sir, I'm upset and I'm annoyed. So Sam asked him, what's the reason why you are annoyed? So this JCO, he told him that I have heard that my further promotion has been denied because you probably did not give me good comments. And so I have made up my mind, sir, that tonight I'm going to kill you. I'm going to shoot you. So Sam laughed. He had a hearty laugh. And as Sam's nature goes, he had a hearty laugh. And then he said, okay. And he said that the moment I told this to the troops, my arms have been taken away and I'm without arms. But then I would like to tell this to you. So Sam said, okay, you want to shoot me? So Sam immediately at that moment, called the entire battalion there, entire his company there. And they were all lined up there. And he was standing in front of the JCO. And Sam himself, he took out his gun and walked up to that JCO and gave the JCO his gun and said, you wanted to be armed so that you can kill me. I'm standing in front of you. I don't have any arms. If you have the guts, if you have the bravery, you can kill me. Come on, kill me. And that JCO was shocked. What is this? What is happening? And he could not kill him. He just could not kill him. He fell onto his knees and started weeping and, started pleading to him that please forgive me and that was wrong on my part, that, I actually asked you for, I'm literally asking you for my life. Please don't punish me and please don't do anything to me. Please forgive me and all this stuff. And Sam was a very, very big-hearted man. In fact, the biggest achievement of Sam was that in his entire tenure, till the time he became the Field Marshal and even after he became a Field Marshal, the biggest achievement what he had in his entire service, military service, was that he never punished anybody. If any court-martial papers were brought to him, he used to evaluate it the whole night. He used to read, and he used to try to find certain loopholes where I can let this person go or give him a chance at least to prove himself. This was Sam's nature, and this nature was praised by everybody, but though in the political circles he was criticized for this nature. But then this happened, and finally Sam said, okay, you're sorry for what you've done, you're sorry for what you've said, good, that's it. And he was sent back to his barracks, and the JCO was sent back, and he was returned his arms, and everything was done. So the moment he was returned his arms, in the evening, in the night when Sam was about to retire for his day, this JCO comes inside with his gun, and he said, you did a big mistake, sir, and that is that you returned my weapon to me. Now that I have my weapon, I'm going to kill you. So Sam again burst into a laughter. Look at the confidence that Sam had. Look at the bravery that Sam had. Look at the courage that Sam had, and full belief in himself that he would handle this situation and he was expert in handling men. And that was a beautiful art of Sam Bahadur. And Sam again burst out into a laughter, and Sam said, okay, now let me tell this to you. In the night, you would bring me my dinner here. In the morning at 5:30, you would wake me up, bring me a hot cup of tea, and bring me hot water so that I can shave myself. And this, you are going to do it. You have your weapon, choice is yours. Whether you want to kill me or whether you want to do this for me. And Sam quietly slept for the night. Though for the whole night, though he was awake, he was alert, he was vigilant, that, nothing should happen to me, and if this person comes and kills me. But then he had this in his mind, that if I get scared at this moment, what example am I going to set in front of my troops? I have to set a good example in front of my troops, because I am the commander. I am the company commander. The troops are looking up to me for all the actions, for all the bravery, to lead me, follow me when I'm leading them in an operation. And they can't follow a coward leader. They have to follow a leader who's brave, who has the courage of his conviction, and who believes in his words, and who knows his strategies very well. And that is why, he didn't show even an inch on his face that he's scared, and he slept off. To his surprise, the next day morning, he saw this JCO coming inside with a hot cup of tea and a mug of hot water so that Sam could shave. And later on, in the entire Burma campaign, this man literally followed Sam like his shadow and was his best buddy throughout till the time he was in the services and till the time this JCO was alive. So, and plus in the Second World War, Sam had got hit. In fact, there was a burst which hit him in his stomach, and his almost all the internal organs were bleeding, his nose was bleeding, his stomach was torn apart, and there were shrapnels inside his body and many things inside his body. But then this JCO, he had hopes that he's not dead. And the moment he saw Sam in a pool of blood, he pulled him and brought him, took him to a nearby MI room and said that, Saab, mere saab ko dekhiye aap, inko turant dawai kariye. And the moment the doctor saw him, the surgeon said, oh, he's a hopeless case, he's already dead. But this JCO refused to accept that he's dead. This JCO said, Mera Saab zinda hai. Mera Saab pakka zinda hai. So then the doctor immediately, saw that this man was breathing and he was trying to open his eyes. So the moment this doctor came to Sam and he asked Sam, what happened to you? So Sam again, jovial, imagine the sense of humor that this man had in spite of his stomach being torn and he being in such pain and he being in such trouble. He said, oh, a mule kicked me in my stomach and nothing else. So, big lesson for all of us, for the youth of this country today, that, this is the way you should face difficulties in your lives. And this is the way your attitude should be there. And finally, there were surgeries done on him, and today what we see is the legend Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw, who's no more.
The strength behind the country.
Absolutely.
He further also participated in the 71 war, and he had amazing conversations with Mrs. Indira Gandhi.
Yes, of course. In the 71 war, there is an incident where Sam was called in by Indira Gandhi in the month of April 71. And because there was a huge influx of migrants coming from Bangladesh and coming into Assam, coming to Bengal, and infiltrating into our territory and staying there in huge big refugee camps. And this was a big worry for Mrs. Gandhi as a Prime Minister, and she immediately summoned for Sam in April, and she told Sam about this situation and said, what can you do, Sam? So Sam said, what do you want me to do? There's practically nothing I can do at this point of time. So Mrs. Gandhi said that I want war. I said, have you read Bible, Mrs. Gandhi? She said, why are you bringing Bible here? No, because in Bible it is written that Jesus said, let there be light, and there was light everywhere. So do you think that you're going to say, let there be war, and it's war which is going to be there? I am not ready for a war. Sam Manikshaw clearly refused. Refusing the Prime Minister. He was the only army chief who had the guts to talk the Prime Minister. In fact, he never addressed the Prime Minister as Mrs. Gandhi. In fact, he addressed her as a singular, with a singular name. In fact, the relation between them was so informal that Sam always used to address her as Indira, or in a singular name. He never called her a Prime Minister or Mrs. Indira Gandhi or anything like that. So she said, why can't you do this now? So he said, look, the snow has started melting. The passes will soon be open. If we declare war with Pakistan, and if China comes inside, we will not be able to fight at two fronts at the same time. We will call it as a trouble for ourselves. And another thing is there that soon the rainy season will begin. And the moment the rainy season will begin, there are numerous rivers in East Pakistan, that is Bangladesh. Those rivers will swell into oceans. And I will neither be able to flush in my troops, I will neither, my Air Force will neither be able to fly, and neither will I be able to put my troops in Bangladesh to fight. And in this, there was this rainy season which used to be really disastrous in Bangladesh. So in this disastrous rainy season, it's impossible to fight a war. I will not be able to go for a war now. My army is not ready. I require time for preparation. So Mrs. Gandhi asked him how much time. So he said, I'll tell you when I'm ready. This was
the confidence.
Confidence that he had in himself, and he made the Prime Minister believe in him. The Prime Minister could not say anything. She was actually taken aback, but then she had full faith in Sam. This was the beauty of Sam Manikshaw. She had full faith in Sam. And very rightly said by Sam, in December, he was again called by the Prime Minister and said, are you ready now? And he informed that, yes, I'm ready. We can go for a war now. And he started this campaign. And we know about the 1971 war. This was the shortest ever war that the Indian Army fought, merely for 13 days. Started on 3rd December and ended on 16th December, where we celebrate the Vijay Diwas. And this was a story about, how his relation with Mrs. Gandhi was there. And later on, there is a very interesting story about this as well. That after the 71 victory, there were rumors everywhere that, Sam has become so powerful that probably Sam would overthrow Mrs. Gandhi and become the supreme commander. And something made Indira Gandhi very, this news, even she heard this news, and it made her very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. So she summoned for Sam again. Sam came to her office and he said, yes, you have some doubts about me? So she was surprised. She said, how did you understand that I have called you for some doubt that I have for you? So he just smiled and he said, no, nothing. And then she said that, what is this that I'm hearing about you taking my seat? So he laughed. He said, yes, I know I'm capable more than you to become the Prime Minister of the country.
Oh my God.
But let me make this very clear to you. I can do it anytime. But I'm not interested in politics. I'm never going to get into this politics, this mad rush of politics. And I'm going to remain away from this. So I have got no ideas of overthrowing you and becoming the supreme commander of the country. And, this was the relation which...
speaking like this to the Prime Minister requires a certain amount of closeness between you two. And
closeness and plus confidence.
Yes, confidence that the Prime Minister has to have in you, that that he's loyal to the country.
Exactly. True.
We've also heard that there was some affiliation between Sardar Vallab Bhai Patel and Field Marshal.
Yes. During 47-48, when the partition happened, and there was this fight for Kashmir, and Kashmir was in jeopardy. Pakistan wanted Kashmir, and we wanted to defend Kashmir because हमें हमारा ताज ये चाहिए था. और then Sardar Patel summoned for Sam Manikshaw and VP Menon. He was a Minister of State then. So these people were called in and they had a meeting with the Prime Minister Jawahar Lal Nehru, and Sardar Patel said that probably we might lose Kashmir, and probably this might happen to us. So Jawahar Lal Nehru said, नहीं, कश्मीर तो हमारा है, कश्मीर हमें चाहिए. तो देन सरदार पटेल प्लीडेड टू नेहरू दैट अगर कश्मीर आपका है तो हमें कुछ करना चाहिए. कश्मीर में कुछ घुसपैठी आ रहे हैं पाकिस्तान की तरफ से, वो वहाँ पर दंगे कर रहे हैं. कुछ घुसपैठी और अंदर आ रहे हैं, वो वहाँ की महिलाओं के ऊपर बलात्कार कर रहे हैं, और जो भी सारी घटनाएं हो रही हैं कश्मीर में वो अच्छी नहीं है, तो हमें इन्हें रोकना पड़ेगा. तो then Sardar Patel, Nehru said, yes, but then what can we do? We can't wage a war at this point of time when the country is getting partitioned. But Sardar Patel said, but if we don't take any concrete steps, we will have to lose Kashmir. So Sardar Patel looked at Sam and said, if I give you, how much time would you require to get Kashmir to yourself? Okay. Excuse me. So Sam said, not much time. I won't require much time to get Kashmir to our country. So, provided I get the orders. And Sam looked at Nehru, and Sam was the Director General of Military Operations then. So, Sam looked at Nehru, provided I get orders. So, Sardar Patel, without asking Nehru, Sardar Patel said, you have your orders. You and VP Menon can march tomorrow to Kashmir. So VP Menon and Sam Manikshaw, they marched to Kashmir, went to Kashmir, spoke to Hari Singh, the king there, and the king pleaded to these two that I require help. And these two said that if you require help, you will have to sign the agreement that you are agreeing to give Kashmir to India. Only then we'll be able to help you, otherwise why should we help you? And that night that agreement was signed, and that is when Sam ordered his Air Force to fly and his troops were flushed into Kashmir, and this is how we got Kashmir that we have today.
There was some political discontentment during the time Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw was there.
You see, yes, there was a political discontent during the time of 71 war. Now, what happened was, 71 war is the biggest ever war where there was this huge amount of 93,000 soldiers had surrendered. Pakistani soldiers had surrendered to the Indian army. And this was the only war in the entire world history that had such huge amount of surrender. 93,000 soldiers surrendering. This is something enormous. Now the moment they surrendered, we were supposed, they were all prisoners of war per se. They were all arrested by the Indian soldiers. And they were kept at various camps. They were kept at various refugee camps in the country. And Sam, as a very, very able, principled soldier, had ordered that all these prisoners of war from Pakistan have to be treated like a soldier, because they too are soldiers who have fought bravely for their country. It's not their mistake. They have fought very bravely for their country, and that is why we must treat them with respect. We must treat them properly. You won't believe, Arjun, Sam literally used to walk into the lines of the POWs. He had ensured that all these POWs, Pakistan prisoners, they had got cots, good mattresses, good bed sheets. Their bed sheets were washed every day. Whereas our troops used to sleep on the ground, and these people were treated so very well. Not on the ground, is literally on the ground. They used to sleep on mattresses, but on the ground. But these people had got cots. They had got special food. They had got special, their likes and dislikes were taken. They used to be served the food which they used to like. There were international communities which were allowed to come and see how India is treating the prisoners of war, where the Red Cross Authority and all these people had also come to see, and they had all praises for Sam Manikshaw. Then Sam Manikshaw used to talk to every POW and ask him if there's any problem, if there is anything. Then the prisoners of war were also allowed to write letters to their country, to their homes, and they were also allowed to receive gifts, and these people were allowed to send gifts. This is somewhere which is absolutely impossible as far as prisoners of war is concerned. No country has ever done this to prisoners of war. Treating prisoners of war like a 5-star person is unheard of in any kind of military operation or in any kind of military history. This is the way Sam treated these soldiers, because he felt that they were soldiers, and he kept them with a lot of respect, and he kept on going from camps to camps, various refugee camps where these people were put up, and he used to talk to them, and he used to know their well-being and things like this. This was the time when there was a huge political discontent, when the political leaders of the country, they didn't like this behavior. They didn't like the Pakistanis being treated like royal guests, So again, Sam was summoned by Mrs. Gandhi, and this question was put forward to him, why are we treating them like, like they are being treated now? So Sam explained it to Mrs. Gandhi that, Madam, look, what is their fault? Their fault is this, that they fought bravely for their country. And believe you me, we have seen them fighting for their country, and we have seen them fighting very bravely. Astounding courage they have, and they have really fought to the entire last breath. And then when it was impossible for them, that is the time when they surrendered. And it was absolutely a superb fight that they gave. And after all, they are soldiers. A soldier is supposed to respect the soldiers. Same way, Arjun, like in the Kargil war, when the Pakistani soldiers were killed and they had left the dead bodies and the rest of them had fled there, the Indian army, you won't believe, did a ceremonial burial, gave a ceremonial burial to all these Pakistani soldiers, where we literally dug a grave and we put them into a coffin, and they were put into that thing. So we have always lived up to, and that is why I always say that the Indian army is a very moral army. It is an army with certain principles, and it sticks to its principles. It never breaks its principles.
An army with a heart.
Yes, we are the army with a heart. We are the army with emotions. But when it comes to confronting the enemy, we are ruthless. This is one incident where the political scenario was, and another incident. And there was a foreign reporter who had come, and who asked him that, during partition you remained with India, but had you gone to Pakistan and had you become the general of Pakistan army, and today the 71 war would have been fought, what would have been the scene? So he started laughing, and he said, definitely Pakistan would have won. And this was not liked by the political masters of the country, and that is why he had a bit of tiff with the political leaders.
The confidence he showed in himself.
Actually, the confidence that he showed in himself was astounding.
I think most of us have also heard his lectures, and the amount of motivation they generate in us is...
The best lecture that I liked of his is, I think that was the last passing out parade that he attended in the army. And owing to that age, being a field marshal, once you become a field marshal, you are a field marshal to the end of your life. Excuse me. And this lecture of his, I can never forget his lecture. The way he was talking to the cadets, and the way he was addressing the cadets with that loud voice and that confidence in his voice, even at that age, was absolutely superb. And after this reporter incident, there were certain benefits which were withdrawn by the Indian government from him, which he used to get. And when Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam became the Honorable President of the country, he restored all his facilities back, and he gave him the same honor. And that photograph still is very clear and very wide in my memory, where Sam Manikshaw is in the military hospital, and Dr. Kalam has gone to meet him, and the smile on Dr. Kalam's face and the spark on Dr. Kalam's face, that I got an opportunity to meet this Field Marshal who has been a stalwart throughout his life, whom every officer of the Indian Army dreams to become, and who is in fact the role model for many, and who has really stood up to his values. And the kind of humility on Sam Manikshaw's face and his very cute smile. He was a very charismatic leader, in fact. In fact, people also say that whenever he used to meet ladies, the ladies never used to leave his company. And this charismatic was his personality, and he was this kind of leader. And he used to address every lady with a lot of respect and with a lot of love. So usually ladies used to love to talk to him and love to get his attention. And this was a photograph which is very clearly remembered, and it is there on the internet as well. Leaders, the military leaders like Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw are very rare, and such leaders who can handle the government, who can handle the government according to their military requirements, and who can also pose a very brave front in front of his troops, who can gain the belief and trust of his troops, and plus who can lead the country to victory in various wars are very, very few, and Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw is one amongst them. And no doubt he was a Field Marshal, and a big salute to Field Marshal Sam Manikshaw. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.